Here is a scale that almost every culture reached for to sound dramatic, exotic, and a little dangerous, and it is one note away from the plainest minor scale there is. Take the natural minor, the ordinary sad scale you already know, and raise a single note inside it. Just one. That one change turns a flat, melancholy line into the sound of flamenco guitar, of villains in old film scores, of metal solos and Middle Eastern melodies. We're going to build it from scratch, hear exactly why that single raised note does so much, and learn the recipe so you can make any minor key sound this way. The scale is called the harmonic minor, and the whole thing hangs on one raised seventh. Start with the natural minor we are altering, and let us build it on the note A, because a natural minor is the easy one, it uses nothing but white keys. Walk up from the bottom, A, then B, then C, then D, then E, then F, then G, and finally back up to the note A at the top. 8 notes, all white, no sharps and no flats anywhere. That is the plain natural minor, the scale we are about to change. Notice the keyboard here spans 2 full octaves, because this scale climbs from a low A all the way up past the middle to the A above it. We need that whole stretch so every note sits in its true place, higher notes truly to the right. Now we change exactly one of them. The 7th note of the scale, counting up from the bottom, is G. We're going to raise that G by a single half step, so it becomes G sharp, the black key just to its right. Everything else stays exactly where it was. So why raise it? Listen to what the natural 7th does first. In plain A natural minor the 7th note is G, and G natural sits a whole step below the home note A. A whole step is a wide gap, and when a melody lands on G it just sits there, slack, with no strong pull back up to home. It drifts. Now raise it. G sharp sits only a half step below A, right next door to it. Play G sharp, then A, and you can feel that tight half step lean hard upward, dragging your ear into the home note. That pull is the most important relationship in tonal music, and it has a name, a leading tone. A leading tone is a note a half step below home that strains to resolve up to it. The major scale has always had one, which is part of why major keys sound so settled and final when they end. Natural minor does not have one, and that missing pull is exactly why a plain minor ending can feel limp and unfinished. The moment we sharpen that 7th, we hand the minor key a true leading tone, and that is the entire reason this scale exists. That single leading tone fixes something deeper than melody. It repairs the harmony. The most important chord in any key is the one built on the 5th note, what musicians call the 5 chord, because it is the chord that drives the music home. In the key of A, the 5 chord is built on the note E, stacking E, then the note a third above, then a 5th above. In plain natural minor those notes are E, G, and B, and that is a minor chord. It sounds soft and unresolved, and it does a weak job of pointing home. But the harmonic minor raised our G to G sharp. Swap it in and the 5 chord becomes E, G sharp, and B, which is a major chord. Listen to the difference. The natural version sounds slack, the raised version sounds bright and decisive, and it pulls back to the home chord with real force. That is why the scale is called harmonic minor. The raised 7th was put there to fix the harmony. But raising that note has a striking side effect, and it is the secret of the whole sound. Look at the 2 notes just below the top. The 6th note of A minor is F, and we just raised the 7th to G sharp. The distance from F up to G sharp is 3 half steps. Everywhere else in this scale the notes are only 1 or 2 half steps apart, but right here, between the flattened 6th and the raised 7th, there is a wide 3 half step jump. That interval has a name, it is an augmented second. It is wider than a normal step, but it lives inside a scale where you would never expect such a leap, and it appears nowhere else among these notes. Hear it on its own, F, then a jump up to G sharp. That stretched gap is unmistakable, and your ear flags it instantly as something unusual. Think about what we did. We raised the 7th to pull the music home, and the price we paid was this wide opening just beneath it. The leading tone we wanted and the exotic gap we did not plan are two sides of the very same change. That one wide gap is the exotic color you have heard 1,000 times. It is the sound of Spanish flamenco guitar. It is the dark drama of classical composers writing in a minor key. It is the menace under a heavy metal riff, and it is the flavor of a great deal of Middle Eastern and Eastern European music. All of it traces back to this single augmented second sitting between the 6th and the 7th. Let us hear the full scale, slowly, climbing up and then back down, leaning into that gap as we pass over it, A, B, C, D, E, F, then the leap to G sharp, and home to A. Coming down A, G sharp, F, E, D, C, B, A. Every time the line crosses that wide jump, the whole scale tilts toward the dramatic and the foreign. Notice that the gap only appears in the upper half of the scale, the bottom climbs along like an ordinary minor, and then the drama lands right before you reach home. That is the harmonic minor in full voice. Now the best part, which is how simple the recipe really is. You do not memorize a brand new pattern. You take any natural minor scale you already know and you raise its 7th note by 1/2 step. That is the entire instruction. Whatever minor key you are in, find the 7th, the note 1 whole step below home, and lift it up to sit 1/2 step below home instead. In A minor, G becomes G sharp. In E minor, the 7th D becomes D sharp. In D minor, the 7th C becomes C sharp. The home note never moves, the other 6 notes never move, only that 7th climbs a single 1/2 step to become a leading tone. And here is the elegant part, because the home note and the 6th both stay put, that wide augmented second gap shows up automatically in every key you do this in. You never have to place it by hand. Raise the 7th and the drama comes free. One raised note, applied to any minor scale, and you have its harmonic minor. So that is the harmonic minor, and it is worth holding the whole picture in your head. Take an ordinary minor scale, raise the 7th a 1/2 step, and two things happen at once. You hand the minor key a real leading tone, which turns its 5-chord major and gives the music a strong, decisive pull home. And as a side effect you open up that wide augmented second between the 6th and the 7th, the gap that makes the scale sound exotic and dramatic. One change, two gifts. There is one catch, though. That wide 3/2 step jump, so striking to the ear, is genuinely awkward to sing smoothly, and singers have quietly worked around it for centuries. The fix is a clever scale that changes its notes depending on whether you are going up or coming down, and that is the melodic minor, which is next.